Alright, here we go. So, I'm sorry I missed the first little bit. You didn't miss much. I'm just embossing some watercolor paper. I took the watercolor paper and tore it in half vertically. So then I essentially had four pieces of watercolor paper to emboss, the top and bottom of each of the halves. So I ran them through my Big Shot by Sizzix, and I'm using three different Tim Holtz embossing folders. One is a French script, which is that one right there. One is a Parisian theme. It's got the Eiffel Tower. It says Paris. It's got a postmark. And the other one is just this damask. I did the French script one twice. And you can see I've got some stencils laying on my table. They don't end up getting used in this project, but I just am bad about cleaning up. So I am taking those pieces now, and I'm working. This is a journal that I've had going for probably a little over a year now, and it just had some of this silver on the background, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like this silver. Can't really tell what it is, but it looked cool. So I'm using golden matte medium, and I keep it in a squeezy bottle. And when I'm not using it, I put a piece of press and seal, which is the kitchen wrap, or you can also use saran wrap, over the opening of the bottle, and then screw the top on over that, and it seals it tight so that way the air doesn't get in. So good little trick for you if you have a big container of it and you just want to squeeze it out. So I'm just applying this down. And last time I did this technique with the embossing folders, I didn't use watercolor paper. I used just regular cardstock, and then I sprayed it with Stiffen Stuff. And I kind of wish I had sprayed it with Stiffen Stuff, because some of it ends up flattening out from all the moisture and everything. But for the most part, the embossing stays where it is. So this is Fluid Acrylic by Utrecht. It's Blix brand, and I am using some glazing fluid, and the color was, I think, aquamarine. So I just glazed the paper, and then as I was drying it, I pounced up some of the color with my dirty acrylic rag. So then it's dry. So I took some iced spruce distress ink, which is a really cool greenish gray, and just rubbed it right over the top. This is Golden, is the brand, and it's iridescent stainless steel coarse, and it's this awesome silver color, and it's got big chunks of like gold, not gold, silver something in it. So then I took my page out of the journal, and I cut the edge off where it was bound, and took it to my sewing machine, and went around the edges. And now I'm mixing up some of that ultra or aquamarine Utrecht paint and some Viridian Green Hue Golden Fluid Acrylic, just to get a darker color for this. This is the Parisian embossing folder. The inspiration for cutting the page out was France Papillon. She does that when she's working in her Finnebear journal. So I did the same thing with this little piece that I did with the rest of it. I used the distress ink in ice spruce over the the embossed parts, and then used my iridescent stainless steel again just to add some accents. I wanted this piece a little bit darker, but it was too different. I wanted it to blend a little bit more but still stand out. So this is a piece of brown paper I had laying on my desk for probably forever, and I wanted to use it. So I got out the brushed corduroy distress ink. It's a really good red-brown. It's like vintage photo but lighter. So I just went around the edges with that, and it matched really well. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I had some threads from where I had sewed this little piece, so I just tied those in a simple double knot. When I started adding the brown into this, browns and blues and greens all go really well together, but I had already added some gray with the distress ink and some silver with the stainless steel coarse. So I was kind of going into new territory, playing with the warm color of the reddish brown and the cool colors of the greens and the blues. And I'm kind of scared of color. As much as I use it, I'm still kind of scared of color, especially when you start mixing the warms and the cools. And they really contrast nicely if you use them right. And I think I end up using them right on this page. I really, really, really like how this page came out. So I was playing around with, extending that and making it look like it went all the way behind, and I ended up not using it. So I just glued down with hot glue 2 sides of this piece, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. So I have a bag of tags that I've made with Distress ink and Dilutions, and I was going through there just trying to see what I could use out of there, and I found this Tim Holtz die cut, and it's the Weathered Clock. It had been Distress inked, and then I put Crackle, a real thin layer of the Distress Crackle paint over it. So I was like, well, this has been in here forever. Let's use it. So I just used my tacky glue and glued it down. The nice thing about tacky glue is that it dries really clear, so you don't have to worry too much about it seeping out. So, and then let's see. Oh, so I had this little fleur-de-lis, and it had been broken, so it's a little sticker. It had been stuck to my desk forever now, so it's weird that it's gone. But I used some quinacridone nickel azo gold by Golden, the fluid color, and I colored it up using that just to pull some of the browns in, and then I used the leftover paint just to kind of smear into the background. That's where I got really brave with mixing that warm color of the quinacridone nickel azo gold with all of the cool colors that were already on the background. So I glued down that little broken fleur-de-lis, so at least it got used. This thing is by, I think, 7 Gypsies. It's called Journal Jewelry. It's just a little, kind of like a stick pin, but it's not really a pin. It's just a little holder thing. So then I have this bag of metal embellishment things, and I heated up the page from behind so that way the hot glue would melt, so I could slip this little metal piece in. And then the hot glue dries and seals that little metal thing in place. So I am attaching a Tim Holtz chain tassel Who's It to that little stick pin thing. And this number 1 is from a wine bottle. I don't remember the brand, but it had this awesome metal number 1 on it, and I was like, oh, I have to pull that off. Took me a minute, and it kind of hurt because it's real metal, so digging under there was not easy, but I finally got it off, and I'm glad I did because it is gorgeous. So I used some Fabri-Tac and then just a little bit of hot glue at the bottom, and the hot glue was just to set it in place for now, and then the Fabri-Tac will glue it permanently because hot glue eventually will fail with metal. So this is a Tim Holtz tag, and it says Hope, and I used that same brushed corduroy and then splattered some water on it and then dried it up. Then I'm going to use the Tim Holtz distressing tool and just distress the sides because it was perforated, so I had torn it off, and I wanted more of a frayed look than a torn look. So this whole page ends up going very Parisian. It's all about my desire to go to Paris one day. I'm extremely enamored of anything Paris. I love it. I love the language. I love just everything. Coffee, wine, just the whole thing. Yeah. So I am gluing that little stick pin in place. I used hot glue to glue down the rest of that little tag thing in the middle, so that held that in place. And then I printed from the computer a phrase, and it says Je rêve de Paris, and that means I dream of Paris. And anyone who knows me knows that one of the jokes I make is I just wanted to go to Paris. Anytime something's not going my way, I just Just wanted to go to Paris. So, and of course I'm recording home alone, and the cat comes in screaming, naturally. So yeah, so anytime something doesn't go my, I just wanted to go to Paris. I just wanted to go to Paris. So that's kind of the joke. So, I am gluing down this phrase into one of these frames, and then I use the Tim Holtz pick. Everyone calls it a pokey tool. It's a pokey tool. Jenny Bedley calls it a pokey tool. It's good enough for me. I call it a pokey tool. So I'm using the pokey tool just with a mouse pad to make holes big enough to use brads to put it down. And I had used some sepia accents to glue the paper onto the back of that frame. And then I had a different frame, and I wanted to put Paris. So the top says Je rêve de, well, I dream of, and then Paris and Paris at the bottom. And I speak a little French, not a lot. I understand. I can read it more than I can read. Anyway, I can read French. So yeah. So I am cutting this circle out. This circle took a minute. I found out that if you just like push it, the metal frame against the paper on the mouse pad, it'll give you a good impression, but still getting it to fit inside, you still have to do some trimming. So that's what I'm currently doing. And I'll end up using the sepia accents just to glue that onto the frame. And with the rectangular one at the top of the page, I only glued the sides. I didn't glue the top and bottom, which I wish I would have. And you'll see why at the end. It ends up being okay. But this is that same aquamarine paint, and I just watered it down and used a paintbrush to paint the paper because I thought, oh, this white is so stark. So then I filled the frame with sepia accents, and this is going to create like an enameled piece. So it ends up looking really cool. And I had some bubbles, and I find the best way to get bubbles out is to squeeze the bottle, so that way, like, hold the bottle upright, squeeze it so that way you've let most of the air out, and then go back in to whatever it is that you put glossy accents on, and kind of suck the bubbles back up into the bottle, because eventually the bubbles will dissipate, but not if they dry. They can dry into it. So I know a lot of people use like pins to poke the bubbles, but yeah, I just like sucking them back up into the bottle. So that top one, as you can see, some of it's kind of deeper than the other, and that's because I didn't tape or I didn't glue down the paper as I should have. So anyway, so then I cut the yeah, I didn't cut anything. That's it. There's the page. I glued it down using Aleene's tacky glue right onto my front cover. I wanted that white to contrast against the rest of the vintagey page. So Je rêve de Paris. I dream of Paris, and it's my first page in my journal, even though it's probably one of the last ones that's going to get made. So there you go. Hope you guys like this page. Feel free to check out my other videos and find me on Facebook, Imperfect Impulses with Aaron, or I'm also on Pinterest. Check out my blog. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.